This is part 2 of the Rock Guard refresh video. I'm now going to test the rebuilt Rock Guard fitment against the body of the Airstream. Step 1 is to remove the damaged Rock Guard. Step 2 is to replace with the rebuilt Rock Guard and see if the hardware lines up. And it looks like this one's going to line up just fine. So we've got a little bending on this one that we knew about. Sorry, it's pretty windy, but we've got a simple thing here. I'm just going to clip the wrench over this and just give it a little bend back to make it flat against here. It was just bent up a little. It's stainless, so it should be okay. All right, this one almost lines up, but I'm gonna make one little relief cut in the corner to get it to bend a little bit closer to where I want it. These are just tin snips. Okay. This is 3M gasket adhesive. Normally you wouldn't use it to attach this gasket to the metal, but because I have to retrain this, it was actually on the other frame. I need to put a dot of this adhesive to keep it up high because it wants to keep sliding back a little bit. And I was going to use a dot of this adhesive to keep it in place. Incidentally, this 3M gasket adhesive, if say you were just to open your rock guards to clean your windows and whatnot, and you see maybe a piece of your weather strippings come loose and it's sagging down, this is the adhesive that you would use. You'd basically put just a little bit of a line and press that back into place, and then use the body of the Airstream to press it together. The adhesive will dry and you'll have your gasket back into place. All right, the next step in this process is to put the screw back that goes here and to hold the rock guard down. And we always carry spares of these to make sure that we have them in case one of the screws goes missing. All right, after releasing the two screws and swinging it open, you can carefully lift it up off the hinge pins and it's loose and free. I'm going to launch into doing the second rock guard. Shanna's not feeling well right now, so she already did the first one, and that video, part 1 of this, is going to have a lot more detail than we're going to show in this one. I'm just going to go ahead and start in on the second one. Hopefully I won't mess anything up. First rock guard that Shanna took apart, she removed the plexiglass from the frame and used that plexiglass to make a template. Now, we have gambled on the mirror image side on the Airstream, the roadside being exactly the same shape plexiglass. So we're gonna go ahead and take this frame apart and see if that piece of glass will go in. What that did was save us $80 in labor to have it done twice because we only had one ready to go. And we're gonna hope, after putting this together, that everything is exactly the same size and it goes right back together easy. I'm glad we took this apart when we did. This hinge is clearly loose because one of the rivet heads is broken off, so I'll be able to replace that and secure this hinge before we put it back on the Airstream. Since it didn't really affect it on the other side, drilling through the front of the frame, we're drilling this one through again to make sure it matches. This blend's coming out in pieces. The other one was one whole piece. All right, looks like it's pretty well loose. Pretty well loose in the frame. Move the splines out of the way and then we'll pull the plexi out. After seeing the first one come apart when Shanna did it, it's only taken me about 30 minutes to get this one carefully apart. savings of hundreds of dollars, frankly. And since I can't make hundreds of dollars in 30 minutes, I think it's well worth it. All right, let's do this. I think it's like this. So Shanna did this in the last video, and basically I'm just trying to follow her steps to get this lined up and in. So far it's according to plan. This was a bit fiddly before, still is. All right. The corner went by. Okay. All right, so I've just got to work this last little bit in, hoping I don't have to hit it with the hammer very hard, but the rest of it is all in and lined up. If it took me 30 minutes to get this apart, it took me less than 10 minutes to wiggle the glass back in, close the frame back to where it was. We're left with putting 2 rivets on each corner. After the rivets go in, we're gonna wiggle this a little bit because the paper edge, if we peel it, we won't have to score it with a razor blade. As Shanna showed on the previous one, it looked like they had scored the plexi with a razor blade, and that led to a crack over time. And we're gonna avoid that by peeling this carefully. So my goal here is just to peel the paper back away from the edge so that there's some protection for the glass when the splines are all piled here, so we can put the splines in place. But maybe I'm being too precious ultimately. To Shanna's point, this is gonna get pelted by rocks. So I'm just gonna peel this side, same as I did the inside. We were able to install the first one without actually using a heat gun or anything to try to get it to conform. It's fully locked into place now, and maybe we'll find after a little while that we really did need to heat it, but so far it's in place and it's good. I think the take-home message here is if you have an older Airstream and your rock guards are starting to be in rough shape, I wouldn't be intimidated to do this project. I've had to engineer a little bit of a solution here. This is a fairly typical narrow small beak riveter that I cannot get in to the channel here to put this rivet in. This rivet is now in and secure. I'm left with a mandrel sticking up, but what I did to be able to pull that rivet is use 2 tiny hex nuts on like this, just as a shim basically, to get the beak up a little higher so I could pull this rivet. I'm just left with a mandrel I have to pull out, but it's now secure and this hinge is all fixed. For now, I'm just gonna reuse this spline. I think it's good enough to reuse, and eventually we'll replace it. It's a bit of an aggravation to get the spline tucked in to hold the plexiglass tight in the rock guard frame, but that's done. I'm hoping this one goes on easier. In particular, this gasket is pretty expensive, and if you can reuse it, that'll really save some money. Looks like we're having no issues lining up on the screws, so I should be able to lock that right down. Shauna's going to be so jealous she doesn't get the peel. Wow, looking good. Now the middle rock guard still isn't done. We figured it was the least intimidating one because it is just a rectangular piece and we can cut that. We launched into the curved ones, ultimately had the shop cut them for us because that seemed like the best use of money. And we're really happy with how they've come out.